So today we're talking about the Fourth Amendment and specifically how the Fourth Amendment relates to unmanned vehicles, namely drones. So a couple questions to get started. First of all, what is an unmanned vehicle? Thoughts on what an unmanned vehicle is? It can come in many shapes and sizes. What are some that you know?
An unmanned vehicle might be a vehicle that is not controlled by me.
Wow.
A drone?
That's pretty deep. A drone, for example, might be what kind of an unmanned vehicle? One that
Oh, what do you mean? Flies?
flies?
Yes.
Right? Could you have a drone on the ground? What are your initial thoughts on rights of privacy and this conversation of unmanned vehicles, unmanned aerial vehicles? Is there a question here about privacy when you think of these vehicles? Are your rights to privacy?
Yeah, especially with the drones. Or
Why? What do drones
a
have?
drone can fly over your house or your backyard. Well,
But just the act of flying over your house isn't necessarily an invasion of privacy, unless.
unless there's like a camera on it.
So some examples of some drones for you, some unmanned aerial vehicles, from the very simple to the very complex, whether it's mission complexity or environmental complexity. Got a lot of different devices out there. Have you heard of line of sight devices and non-line of sight devices? Anything I can fly past a distance where I can see it, maybe about a mile or so, is considered to be beyond line of sight. And that's dangerous, right? I don't know if it goes down or not unless I have a camera. Also, the people who are probably standing underneath it don't know it's there. And that's where we get into the privacy concerns. So this whole line of sight business, if it's within my line of sight, for example, over this property, people in my vicinity will know that I'm flying a drone. Why? Because my head's going to be kinked back, my eyes are going to be looking skyward, and they're going to figure out there's something above me. But it's when I go beyond line of sight, when I go outside of my general neighborhood, when things start, when we start asking questions. If you don't know the Fourth Amendment, here's the text for you. The Fourth Amendment states, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. The Bill of Rights. Anybody know what probable cause is? It's important here. It's important in this conversation. Probable cause. You know what it sounds like? You could probably come up with a definition if you had to generalize probable cause. Any thoughts? Yeah?
A reason that we search.
Okay. So if I want to search your backpack, can I just say, yeah, I probably have a reason? Is that probable cause?
No.
Right, I need something else. Well, besides the fact that you're students in high school, you give us the right without probable cause. But that's another conversation. This is important stuff because we're going to talk about what it means to have technologically advanced surveillance versus surveillance with the naked eye. And there's an important distinction to be made there. So some case law that gets us to this point where we are today goes all the way back to 1914 with a case entitled Weeks versus United States. And what happened here was we found that evidence obtained in violation of Fourth Amendment is generally inadmissible at trial. What happened in 1967 was cats, legally or illegally, attempted to enter a phone booth, make a call to place a wager on a sporting event. He was betting, he was gambling at the time. It was not legal. Police suspected him of this, and before the phone call, placed a wiretapping device on the phone booth. Katz enters the phone booth, closes the door, picks up the phone, and proceeds to make his call. What we find out here is that this sets an expectation of privacy. What action did he do that set that expectation of privacy?
Shutting the door.
He shut the door. He could have had a conversation with the door open, but he decided to close the door, indicating to the population around him, whether they cared or not, that he expected this call to be private. Thermal imaging. It's a big one, and we're going to talk about it here in one of these cases. Thermal imaging is huge because it gives you the ability to see what? Heat signatures. Right, I can see maybe one house on the block has a lot of heat coming from it, more so than the rest. Right? What if I'm looking over a data center and it's glowing white? What is that indicative of?
It's cold.
If it's glowing white.
Oh, it's super hot.
It's hot, right? For one reason or another. Whether there's computers running, whether there's lights on, something's generating an extreme amount of heat. So let me read you a statement and I want your opinion on it. An individual may not legitimately demand privacy for activities conducted out of doors in fields, except in the area immediately surrounding the home. What does that mean? Right, if I'm in the middle of the street, I have no expectation of privacy. Anything that happens, if it's a conversation, if it's an exchange that's happening, there's no expectation of privacy in the middle of the street. What about under the awning of your house?
Yeah, you deserve privacy for that.
What if it's in the front yard?
Yeah.
Because it's your property.
What if it's in the backyard? Without a doubt.
Yes.
Because more than likely, not more than likely, 9 times out of 10, 8 times out of 10, you're behind a fence. But I will challenge you on the fact that in the front yard, under the awning of your house, there is no expectation of privacy. Any thoughts of limitations of Customs and Border Patrol having UAVs? Last thing I promise. What are some limitations of UAVs?
If someone's running, it's kind of like, just, hey, look at him run, look at him run.
Unless you put a
They're
weapon
very
on
limited
it.
in their ability to take action.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Like we talked about legal issues.
A lot of legal issues. Right. What about the neighborhoods that are located on either side of the border? I don't want to be searched, yet I live here. Does that mean I should have to be able to be searched? Hopefully not. So this is the question, and your assignment. This is the question, and your assignment's going to be to give me a couple of paragraphs on will security ever trump privacy? In a series of well-organized paragraphs, a minimum of 2. Please answer the question: will security ever trump privacy? And you'll have time in class to do this. Good to go?
Do we need sources?
Yes, you need sources. All right, here we are. Welcome back. Welcome back. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So we've been talking a lot about the Fourth Amendment recently, talking about search and seizure and the rights and privileges given. So anybody have notes on the Fourth Amendment? What was it? What does it say? And how do we use it?
The Fourth Amendment says the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue, but affirmative and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized.
Okay, so a lot of information there, right? A probable cause is implied. We talked about probable cause a little bit. Warrants, searches, seizures, the rights of your person and place to be secure. So the activity, we're going to pair up, and one's going to be the witness, one's going to be the officer. So you can decide in just a second. You're each going to get a copy of the scenario, so you have notes to read from. Also, the paper is going to be wide open, so you can write stuff down on. The officer must research the case that they're responding by asking witnesses to deliver the facts as they know. So a witness might have to wear many different hats, right? If there's a car involved, one might be the driver, one might be another witness might be a bystander, another witness might be the person who loaded the car or who last saw the car. The police officer has to ask all of these people questions, and it's going to be the witness's job to deliver the facts as they know it. Now, you don't know any of the facts yet, so that's where the role-playing comes in. Embellish, right? Be creative, but try and stick to the storyline, all right? You get about 10 minutes to do the Q&A, to do the investigation, and then the police officer is going to have to write the warrant request, and then submit it to the judge. And then the people who are the witnesses are going to move, and then you're going to become the judges, and you're going to have to hear the request for the warrant. And then upon hearing the request for the warrant, you have an affidavit that you fill out whether you agree with the request for the warrant or whether you decline it. And then we're going to talk at the end about whose warrants got approved and whose didn't and why, what questions should have been asked. All right, these are not necessarily cyber issues, but they're issues all that relate to the Fourth Amendment. So, here we go.
Think of another possibility besides them stealing money from the bank. What else could
I
they
love
do?
being the witness. I just get to lie,
They're drug dealers.
make up the stories.
Yeah, so you have to ask things about comings and goings. You know, who do you see going into the house? What time? Are they alone?
Yeah,
Document stolen money.
What's the problem here, officer?
Oh,
Police officer's about done.
I got
I
it.
got one more.
It
For who?
works.
For who? The
Surely
manager?
exit.
Okay,
Surely exit. Surely.
I'm coming, Tyler.
You mean
Okay, what do judges need? Judges need this?
So you're going to receive the application from him, and then you're going to ask the police officer questions, and then you're going to decide whether or not to issue the warrant. Is Snapchat private?
Nope.
All right, the picture goes away, right?
Yeah, but you can screenshot it.
Right, anyone can screenshot it. Snapchat has it on a server somewhere. So probably the greatest advancement to what we think is private communications amongst electronic devices is in fact a public communication channel. right? It's being stored somewhere. So understand all of these digital devices, there is nothing that is just between you and the other person. Even text messages, even though they don't pop up on other devices, they're stored on a server somewhere. And I can go back at any point if I have any suspicion of wrongdoing and request that data. All right? And as students, you're even more susceptible to those kinds of searches. So understand that as well. Questions? Good on Fourth Amendment? We've just about killed it. There's a law class going on in this building. You should ask them about their interpretation of the Fourth Amendment and compare your notes. You've done a lot of work in 2 days, and I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. That's it.
Good.
How do I cut it? Oh.
Is that a camera?
There's one more camera.
No, that's not a camera.
And that's a cut.
Audio's off.